model will enable FELDA to explore new areas. Police to call up Al Jazeera journalists over documentary.
Good evening, you're watching News at 10 with me, Brendan Lepal. Now, the government is set to implement FELDA new model, including the Settlers Development Program nationwide, to garner new revenue, manage plantation through the strengthening of the FELDA cooperatives and use the latest technology in smart agriculture. Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said the primary objective of the new model is to assist settlers to derive additional lucrative income through other high-value crop and livestock projects. With this, the Prime Minister said FELDA settlers would no longer rely entirely on the yields of oil palm and rubber, which are up against uncertain prices.
Saya dimaklumkan projek rintis program pembangunan peroka ini di FELDA Bukit Rokan Negeri Sembilan yang bermula sejak bulan November 2019 telah menunjukkan pencapaian yang memberangsangkan dan memberi manfaat langsung pada lebih 300 orang peneroka. Kejayaan projek rintis ini akan dijadikan contoh untuk dilaksanakan di semua tanah rancangan FELDA seluruh negara yang akan melibatkan hampir 31,000 orang peneroka.
Tan Sri Muhyiddin said FELDA has tremendous potential to become one of the country's leading producers of food and guarantee a stable supply of food as its own extensive arable land. The Premier also wants to see FELDA, in addition to being the country's leading producers of commodities, rise as a catalyst and leader of a large-scale food industry by driving plantation activities based on smart agriculture as well as innovative downstream activities. At a separate event earlier today, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin reiterated that the government is committed to continuing the country's development efforts through the 12 Malaysia Plan and the Shared Prosperity Vision 2030, WKB 2030. However, the Prime Minister said to implement the development efforts based on the WKB 2030, there are current and future planning requirements that demand the government to be more proactive and responsive.
Dalam usaha meningkatkan kesejahteraan rakyat, pastinya memerlukan keputusan-keputusan yang dibuat dengan betul serta berasaskan bukti dan fakta yang menyeluruh.
The Premier added that the national statistics system is based on the good practice recommended by the United Nations Fundamental Principles of Official Statistics, which was developed to support the production of official statistics. He said a robust national statistics system needed to be developed in an increasingly challenging world where the country's competitiveness was increasingly depending on the power of data and information to make accurate decisions. As such, he states strategic investment by stakeholders was needed for infrastructure development and capacity building of the system. Tan Sri Muhyiddin further noted that when robust statistics are available, the channeling of resources for planning and development can be done more efficiently and effectively. Budget 2021 that is set to be unveiled on the 6th of November will be framed across 4 broad themes. Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz said the 4 themes are caring for the people, steering the economy, sustainable living and enhancing public service delivery.
First goals of the Prihatin and Kencana packages are to protect the rakyat and to empower the rakyat respectively. Moreover, Malaysians have shown the will to build a better society and have demonstrated it admirably during the nation's toughest months. Movements such as #KitaJagaKita or We Care For Us have witnessed Malaysians, young and old, coming together with NGOs and corporations to help their fellow Malaysians.
On steering the economy, Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul said among the related areas under the theme includes ensuring gross domestic product (GDP) growth for 2021, increasing foreign direct investment (FDI), and consumer confidence. The Finance Minister also noted that it is vital to enhance the usage of technology and digitalization across various public and private sectors to spur economic growth. Meanwhile, on enhancing public service delivery, he said the government aimed to be outcome focused and support the rakyat and businesses in a more targeted manner.
On another note, the Finance Minister said international agencies have forecast that Malaysia's gross domestic product (GDP) in 2021 will be in the range of 6.3% to 7.5%. Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul said the projections are subject to Malaysia's continued success in managing COVID-19 as well as in steering and nurturing the economy towards recovery and growth.
As Malaysia is an open economy, whether our growth will be U-shaped or V-shaped recovery will also depend on external factors such as the recovery of our major trading partners as well as the restoration of global supply chain.
Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul said it is vital for the government to ensure that the COVID-19 health crisis does not turn into an economic crisis, citing it as the reason for the implementation of the Prihatin and Bencana.
The Finance Ministry, through the Royal Malaysian Customs Department, has paid out 1.264 billion ringgit in goods and services tax (GST) refund to 4,316 companies from the 22nd of June until the 2nd of July. The Department Director General Dato' Abdul Latif Abdul Kadir said the payment was made to companies which had fulfilled the conditions required for claim filing purposes.
On 15 June, Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Seri Zafrul Abdul Aziz said his ministry, through the Customs Department, is committed to ensuring that the GST refund to taxpayers would be expedited. He said the ministry had agreed for the department to employ the pay first and audit later approach for selected companies based on the Goods and Services Tax Repeal Act 2018 and also certain criteria. Dato' Abdul Latif said the initiative was in line with the economic recovery steps introduced under Bencana to help small, medium enterprises that were adversely affected by the Movement Control Order, MCO, implemented to curb the spread of COVID-19. He said companies that have yet to receive the refunds could check their status via My GST Taxpayer Access Point, TAP, or by emailing the claim information to the email address shown on the screen. The Department Director General added that checks can also be made by contacting the hotline or email as shown on the screen below or referring to the JKDM station at the nearest internal tax division or branch.
Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM) today reduced the overnight policy rates (OPR) by another 25 basis points to 1.75%, or rather 1.75%, which is a record low since the floor was set in 2004. In a statement today, the Central Bank said the Monetary Policy Committee (MPC) decided to have the ceiling and floor rates of the corridor of the OPR correspondingly reduced to 2% and 1.50% respectively.
BNM also pointed out that the impact of COVID-19 on the global economy has been severe, and although a trough is suspected in the second quarter, broad-based weakness in labour markets and precautionary behaviour by households and businesses could affect the recovery going forward. It said the reduction in the OPR provides additional policy stimulus to accelerate the pace of economic recovery. The MPC will continue to assess evolving conditions and their implications on the overall outlook for inflation and domestic growth. The central bank said it will continue to utilize its policy levers as appropriate to create enabling conditions for a sustainable economic recovery. BNM also pointed out that following the gradual and progressive reopening of the economy since early May, economic activities have begun to recover from the trough in the second quarter. The pace and strength of the recovery, however, remains subject to downside risks emanating from both domestic and external factors.
Malayan Banking Berhad Maybank Group President and Chief Executive Officer Dato Abdul Farid Alias says diverging trends in the distribution of incomes, a practice embedded in societies throughout time, have exacerbated in recent decades. While acknowledging that the free market plays an important role in allocating factors of production as it allows efficient distribution of resources, Dato Abdul Farid said while the choices one needs to take are human decisions, technology could be a great enabler.
According to him, a more equitable society and the reduction of waste would bring immediate benefits to profitability. Corporates, he said, should not only be measured for its returns on financial capital, but also human, social and natural capital. Dato Abdul Farid also noted that if sustainability strategies were something that the corporate must do to meet the demands of investors who measure corporate behavior, that is, to tick a box, then the results will be mediocre at best. He also said Malaysia and ASEAN have made tremendous progress towards a sustainable future which has benefited the societies at large, but that the notion of the rising tide lifting all boats is only partially true.
Coming up, employers now must comply with new housing standards for workers. Now, the police are to call up soon for questioning the Al Jazeera news channel and one of its journalists over a documentary highlighting an alleged discrimination against undocumented migrants in the country. The Malaysian government has criticised the documentary for portraying what it claimed to be an inaccurate picture of the treatment of illegal immigrants during the fight against COVID-19. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Abdul Hamid Bados said the investigation will be carried out under several provisions of the Penal Code and Sedition Act.
Oleh kerana ada laporan polis dibuat terhadap laporan tersebut, jadi menjadi tanggungjawab PDRM untuk menjalankan siasatan untuk menentukan sama ada terdapat unsur-unsur hasutan ke atau salah laku.
Deputy Director of the Criminal Investigation Department at Bukit Aman, DCP Mio Farid Al-Atrash Wahid said yesterday the police have started an investigation on the reports in accordance with Section 500 of the Penal Code and Section 233 of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998. The 25-minute Al Jazeera documentary had portrayed what the news channel claimed to be poor treatment of illegal immigrants in Malaysia during the measures enforcement to combat COVID-19.
Human Resources Minister Dato Sri M. Saravanan says the government will enforce Workers' Minimum Standards of Housing and Amenities Act 1990, Act 466, from the 1st of September to ensure that employers observe the SOP for workers' accommodations for all sectors to curb the spread of COVID-19. He said enforcement teams from the relevant departments such as the Labour Office will conduct checks after the 1st of September, and employers will be fined up to 50,000 ringgit if they do not comply with the SOP under Act 446.
Dan ini termasuk perumahan, penginapan dan sumbangan untuk pekerja. Dan hari ini kita lihat dari segi akta baru ini cukup detail sehingga memastikan tilam yang betul, almari berkunci dan sebagainya. Maka dalam 3 bulan ni kita dah bagi kelonggaran kepada majikan dan penguatkuasaan akan bermula daripada 1 September.
The minister said this after conducting checks on construction worker accommodations for 950 people at Bangsa, Kuala Lumpur today. In general, worker accommodations located either within or outside the construction sites must fulfill 3 basic aspects, namely safety, cleanliness and comfort, with adequate space for the residents, and must comply with the regulations and laws. The SOP includes cleanliness and disinfection exercises conducted in common areas, providing facilities for washing and disinfecting hands, avoiding group activities, and ensuring social distancing of at least 1 meter between workers. The worker accommodations in Bangsa were built 15 years ago and have lodging, bathrooms, toilets and cooking areas.
6 new COVID-19 cases, all involving Malaysians, were detected in the country as at noon today, raising the total COVID-19 infections to date to 8,674. Health Director General Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said 2 of the 6 cases were local transmissions and the other 4 were Malaysians returning from abroad.
Elaborating further on the matter in a statement release, Dr. Noor Hisham said of the 2 local cases, one is from the Federal Territory and the other is from Selangor. He also said that no cases involving non-Malaysians were reported today. 5 patients were discharged today, putting the total COVID-19 recoveries at 8,481 cases, or 97.8%, while there were no new COVID-19 fatalities reported today as well, keeping the death toll at 121 to date. Currently, only 2 patients undergoing treatment in the intensive care unit require ventilators. Dr. Noor Hisham noted that a total of 647 people in the country were found to have contracted the virus while abroad. He said no family member of Malaysian returnees currently undergoing the mandatory 14-day home quarantine order since the 10th of June have been found to be infected, but urged constant vigilance to avoid spreading COVID-19 through others.
The Special Ministerial Meeting on Recovery Movement Control Order RMCO implementation today has approved the SOP related to parliamentary sessions. Senior Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob in a statement today said all involved, including members of parliament, government officers and media officers, must go through a registration process using the My Sejahtera application and temperature screenings before they are allowed entry into the parliament.
Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said the next Day 1 Rakyat session will be held from the 13 July to 27 August and that all lawmakers, government officials and journalists will have to follow the standard operating procedures. Other SOPs that were agreed upon include using face masks, hand sanitizers as well as arranging a 1 meter social distancing for seating during the parliamentary meetings. He added that only MPs, their respective aides and officers will be allowed entry into the meeting halls, while other government officers and journalists are only allowed into the Parliament building. The Day 1 Rakyat session is expected to last for 25 days, followed by the Day 1 Negara session will be held from the 2nd of September till the 23rd of September for 11 days.
A total of 84% of 3,282 construction sites are operating within the Standard Operating Procedure (SOP) set by the government to curb the spread of COVID-19 pandemic. Senior Minister for Infrastructure Datuk Seri Fadilah Yusof said checks conducted by the Construction Industry Development Board (CIDB) from the 20th of April until the 5th of July found that only 1% of the sites were ordered closed, while another 15% were issued warnings for non-compliance of the SOP.
Elaborating further on the matter, Datuk Seri Fadilah said those which were closed by the Health Ministry for positive COVID-19 cases have been reopened after the end of the quarantine period and no other workers were found to be positive for the disease. He said the majority of those which did not comply with the SOP have now complied, while those who still did not comply were not allowed to operate. Commenting on projects which were delayed due to the Movement Control Order (MCO), the senior minister said the automatic 3-month extension involved government projects.
Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdullah Rayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah today consented to be the first respondent in the Malaysian Population and Housing Census 2020, Census 2020. In a short video clip shown at the launch of the Census 2020 by Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin at the Putrajaya International Convention Centre, PICC today, His Majesty also called on all Malaysians to play their part in the census.
Kini, beta telah mengisi e-census. Bersamalah kita menjalankan tanggungjawab demi kesejahteraan rakyat dan pembangunan negara.
sekalian.
Meanwhile, Minister in the Prime Minister's Department Economy, Datuk Seri Mustafa Mohamad, when met after the launch, expressed the National Statistics Department's thanks and appreciation to Al Sultan Abdullah for the support given to Census 2020. He said despite the many challenges faced by the country of late, it is still vital for the census to be conducted and for the people to give their full cooperation. The minister said 108 questions that need to be answered in the Census 2020 had taken into account the feedback from all quarters, including those in rural areas and the Orang Asli in Sabah and Sarawak. Datuk Seri Mustafa added that accurate data from the census is important for the government in making plans for the country, be it for the preparation of the annual budget, the 12 Malaysia Plan, or the formulation of policies for education, housing, health, and infrastructure sectors.
Dead in Japan floods as rescuers race against time. That and more coming up in our foreign segment. But first, at least 7 people burned to death and 46 were injured after the contents from an overturned tanker exploded in a fireball in northern Colombia on Monday. Dozens of people had gathered around the tanker after it overturned and were trying to siphon off fuel when it ignited, causing an inferno.
The accident occurred on the road between the cities of Barranquilla and Santa Marta on Colombia's Caribbean coast. Governor of the local department of Magdalena, Carlos Caicedo, said efforts were underway to transport people suffering serious burns to specialist hospitals. President Ivan Duque sent a message of solidarity to the families of the victims, saying the situation they faced was painful. Hospital services in the city of Barranquilla, around 45 kilometers from the accident, are reported to be close to saturation due to the COVID-19 outbreak in one of Colombia's worst hit regions.
Emergency services in western Japan today are racing against time to rescue people stranded by devastating floods and landslides that have killed at least 50 people, with more torrential rain forecast.
Japan's meteorological agency, JMA, issued its second highest emergency warning for heavy rain and landslides over vast swathes of the country's southwest and said risks are rising nationwide. At least 50 deaths have been confirmed in the rains that began early Saturday. Top government spokesman Yoshihide Suga said, but the toll is expected to rise, with 2 more feared dead and over a dozen reported missing. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said he was doubling the deployment of rescue personnel, including police and firefighters as well as coast guards and troops, to 80,000. Rivers overflowing their banks have swept away bridges and turned roads into lakes, making rescue access possible only by raft or helicopter.
Coming up in sports, chances of M-League resuming look bright. Now, the chances of this season's M-League Malaysia Football League resuming is looking bright following Malaysia's success in containing the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, according to Youth and Sports Minister Datuk Seri Rizal American, the matter would be among the topics discussed during the special ministerial meeting this coming Thursday.
Speaking to reporters after conducting a working visit to the Larkin Arena Aquatic Centre in Johor Bahru today, Datuk Seri Rizal, however, stressed that the decision on whether to resume the M-League and other contact sports would depend on the National Security Council.
Dan dengan melihat perkembangan rakyat Malaysia yang dikatakan very berdisiplin, berjaya telah kata melandaikan, flatten the curve, saya melihat bahawa keyakinan, bukan kata di kalangan rakyat, juga kerajaan untuk memberi kata keturusan, kebenaran agar sukan-sukan seperti bola sepak, contact sport itu untuk mula dan kembali beraksi.
Meanwhile, Datuk Sri Rizal said the ministry is not concerned over the stage preparation in organising the Malaysia Games or SUKMA, as many of the facilities and venues for the event were almost complete. According to the minister, the construction works and venues and facilities for SUKMA Johor is between 95 and 97% complete, whereas at the Aquatic Centre, what's left is just the warm-up pool.
Datuk Sri Rizal is also optimistic that all preparations will be ready as early as 4 to 5 months before SUKMA starts. When asked if SUKMA would still be held in March next year, he said the matter will be discussed during SUKMA's committee meeting soon.
Benda ni bukan di bawah bidang kuasa saya untuk mengumumkan kaedah apakah yang akan dikenakan oleh pihak kerajaan. Tapi apa pun pasca PKPP itu akan menjadi garis panduan kepada kita untuk kita tentukan kaedah yang kita laksanakan untuk SUKMA pada 2021, SUKMA 2020 pada tahun depan.
The 20th edition of SUKMA, which Johor is playing host, should be held between 11th and 29 July, but it has been postponed due to COVID-19.
And in football, an own goal by Michael Keane proved the difference as Tottenham Hotspur beat visitors Everton 1-0 in a duel clash early this morning to move up to 8th in the standings and hand manager Jose Mourinho a 200th Premier League win.
Looking for Son.
Defeat would have dropped Spurs below the visitors into the bottom half of the table, but they won fairly comfortably to stretch their unbeaten league run versus Everton to 15 games. Midfielder Giovanni Lo Celso thought he had scored his first Premier League goal for Tottenham in the 23rd minute, but his shot on the turn took a decisive reflection of Keane to leave keeper Jordan Pickford with no chance. Son was twice denied by Pickford in the second half and curled a shot wide, while Lloris made a couple of comfortable saves as a dreary Everton failed to muster much of a response. Spurs goalkeeper Hugo Lloris was hardly tested, although he was involved in the night's flashpoint, having a furious row with teammate Son Heung-min as the players walked off at half-time. Tottenham have 48 points from 33 games, one behind Arsenal and 9 adrift of 4th place Chelsea. Everton's first defeat since the resumption of the season left them 11th.
Sevilla winger Lucas Ocampos struck the decisive goal and pulled off a last gasp save. A makeshift goalkeeper, or rather as a makeshift goalkeeper, as his side beat Eibar 1-0 early this morning in La Liga to home in on a return to the Champions League. That concludes this evening's news at 10. In our top story, new model will enable FELDA to explore new areas, garner new revenue. Join us again at 12:30 tomorrow afternoon. I'm Brendan Lepal. Stay tuned to Saluran Berita RTM and have a pleasant evening.